Hey everybody, John Bernankovich here with All Points Design. That's allpointsdesign.ca. Today we're talking about values-based decision making, and I have a question from Tristan. Tristan, what's your question?
Yeah, well, I'd love to hear you, Javin. Just start off by explaining what values-based decision making actually is.
Great place to start. Start at the very beginning. So, values-based decision making is a future clarifying process in terms of our values and our objectives. So, in life, and especially in corporate consumer capitalistic culture, we get to a place to where we're constantly being sold the next great thing. We're always told this is the thing that will bring about happiness. And I think most of us know that this has been a con for a long time, a pretty long con. And what values-based decision making does is it flips it on its head. Instead of saying the goal is the most important thing, it asks, well, what are you seeking by achieving that goal or seeking that goal? What's that state of being? What's that future state that you're looking for? What's future Tristan wanting? What's future Javin wanting underneath a specific area that you're working on? So it could be your life, your partnership, it could be your business, it could be a land-based context, a land-based business, could be a community. Basically, we say within this whole WHOLE, within this project that we're working on, what do we want the future to look like, feel like? What do we want it to be like? And we clarify that through a organic, consistently regenerating process. So we're always asking, well, what's true for us now in the future? What do we want to be true now? And then there's an amazing distillation process that will filter, that will evaluate any decision under the sun. So any decision that comes to us, any tangible goal, anything, for its ability to bring about that future. So a lot of folks, after The Biggest Little Farm, this amazing documentary all about a regenerative farm in California, would call me up and go, hey, I want that. That's what I want. As if those of us that work in land design are vending machines. You can press a button and out comes this biggest little farm for you. And what was so interesting is when you dive into it and you really ask them, well, what's behind that for you? Like, what of that farm, what of that example did you love? They start to go, well, I want to know where my food's coming from, but I also want my food to be living and nutrient dense and really nurturing us and feeding us. And I want to know where my kids are because I want to grow up with my kids. I want to be with my kids and I want to have some sort of physicality in my life. And so you get these very specific values. And then all of a sudden, when you start to share with them the realities of building a farm, they go, well, maybe I don't want a farm. And that's this wonderful way that values-based decision making can save people hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of dollars in time and sleep and all the rest of it, is because when we get really clear on what we want our future to look like, all of a sudden we have this ruthless clarity of vision where any decision that comes to us can be looked, can be evaluated, and we can joyfully say no to. We can go, this works for some things, but not all things. And what I love about that, what I absolutely love about it, is we realize a fundamental truth that life is 100% negotiable. And so if this decision comes to us and we don't like it, we don't want it, we can change it. There's a good example. I actually got an email this morning from a client. They had an opportunity to take on a rental opportunity for friends who were going traveling for a couple of years. They were going to go to South Africa. They were going to go to New Zealand. They were going to go to Australia. But they have this amazing farm. It's well set up. They have chickens. They have livestock. They have fences. And they want the right person to be in that place. They want the right person to be able to take care of the place. And they knew that my client, their friend, would be perfect for it. And so they reached out and they say, hey, we really want you to do this. But, we're looking at markets. We're looking at real estate. And if anybody's aware about real estate right now, it's insane. And this is the price we want. They were like, wow, that's way too much. And so we went through a values-based decision-making process in terms of what my client wanted in the future, what their weak links were, and how much this opportunity would facilitate that. And what we realized is that the bricks and mortar of it, the house, the farms, the field, the greenhouses, what they want to do in the next couple of years fit perfectly. The price, however, would cripple them to the point to where none of that mattered. They'd be so frustrated, so upset, so worried, so stressed out. None of that would matter. Instead of working a few days less a week, they'd be working a few more. They'd have to work every other Saturday. And so we came to the place of, okay, this decision as it stands today is not a good fit. So what if we changed it? What if we kind of changed the perspective on it? And immediately my client was like, well, they're not going to go for that. And it was a wonderful moment to go, if they do or if they don't, it has nothing to do with you. Those, what they're doing or what they're saying has nothing to do with you. So what actually works for you? And so they found the right price point. They found what they could manage with space, with luxury. So not just like just squeaking over the edge. They sent it to them, and in their mind, they said, they're not going to go for it. I need to let it go. And then they started to deal with that frustration that we all have when we're building ourselves up to do something, and then we think it's not going to happen. Happens to all of us. There's grief involved. And a couple of days later, they came back. They said, sounds great. And it was, I think it was like 30% less than what they offered in terms of what the rent would be and all the rest of it. But that's such a great example of how we're always so wrapped up that the decision that comes to us is the only decision. And when we realize that our values are way more important, our state of being is way more important, our future is way more important than any of these decisions that are coming to us, we've become very creative in changing and augmenting that. And so I love that piece of it. And then the last piece of values-based decision-making is this idea of spot checking, that as you're going throughout the year, be it in your business, in your life, with your partnership, you can come back to your context, to these values that we hold, and you can go, which of these are true right now? And which of these aren't? And what can I do to improve it? So it's this sober second thought that inoculates you against yourself and society's biases, that can continually keep you on track and can continually point you in the direction of your future self. So for me, that's what values-based decision-making is. But Tristan, you've been working at this for a little while now. You've been working with it. You're starting to learn how to do this process yourself. What is it to you? Like when somebody asks, what's values-based decision-making to you, what do you say?
Yeah, well, it is quite a big thing to explain in many ways, just because there are a few components to it. And I think it involves a lot of words that people are not ordinarily familiar with in some senses. And I think it's because, we've generally been raised not to think in terms of values, but to think in terms of goals, and to see a certain achievement as something that we should aim for, without ever asking, well, why is that achievement important to me? So it's not that achieving is bad by any means. Achieving is great, but to what ends, and what is it serving? And so what I'm really enjoying about the process for myself and seeing with the people I'm starting to facilitate is how, when you ask the right question and when you really ask the why, it just helps people go deeper into themselves than they have probably been before, in terms of recognizing what's really important to them. And then starting to see that they can actually guide their lives according to that. They don't have to take on other people's suggestions of what they think is right for you. You can decide that for yourself, and you can test that according to your own unique values. And just from my experience, when I've done that more and more, there's just a greater lightness of being in many ways, and there's an instinctual learning. And I think there's also, increasing awareness and better decisions and sort of better livelihood. So things become a lot easier through the process, I would say. And the more it gets practiced, then the more that happens.
Love it. Concise and really to the point. And you brought up a great point to end on, which is this concept that if you don't design your life, it will be designed for you, probably already has, for somebody else's benefit, not for yours. And we're so told that these are all the things we ought to do in life. These are the concepts to hold, the principles to hold. And values-based decision making, I guess in essence, is an amazing tool to design your life. It helps you to understand yourself. It gives you a chance to ask deep penetrating questions. I worked with a sheep breeder a couple of years ago who was in his 60s. I remember him saying, this is the toughest thing I've had to do since I was 14, and had to learn how to leave home and fend for myself and all the rest of it. And it is, I think that's an important piece. It's tough, But like anything, the work put in is the result that comes out. And so putting in that work, building that work can have an exponential compounding effect for our lives and our satisfaction. So, well, thanks so much, Tristan, for the question. I so appreciate it. And for everybody else, if this is something you're interested in, values-based decision making is offered in 3 ways. There's a one-on-one version with myself. There's a group course that we offer, and there's also a self-paced DIY version. So if you're interested in that, check out the video below or the links below. And remember, it's always a good time to redesign your life. Take care.